Hi guys, this is Carlin Liborio, and I just wanted to give you a quick sneak peek of my latest 8th grade fiction resource for extended constructed response. So I'm going to take you through this new resource, give you a sneak peek. And one thing that is different about this, there's a few different things that I did with this resource that I'm pretty excited about. One is, well, if you're new, it includes the teacher directions. So all of my resources always come with the teacher directions that breaks it down for you step by step. It also contains the link to the STAAR passage. This one comes from 2018 release STAAR passage. And the link to that is provided. It has teaching suggestions. It has a fiction anchor chart or poster, fiction Foursquare. This is what I use to kind of annotate or jot as I'm reading the story. And so I feel like that's something that could help you when you're having class discussions and you're asking the students questions about the passage. This is a good thing to kind of guide your discussion. And I also like to, kind of model that at the beginning for students, and then eventually they can hopefully do their own. So I have a blank one that you could give to your students, and then I have a sample Foursquare that is already filled out. And I gave you 3 SCRs. I usually only do 2, but this one I put 3 SCRs. One or two of these are actually SCRs that were asked on the practice. There's a practice test on TA's website. It's called the item sampler. It has 15 questions just to kind of test out the new question types. And so it sort of has like an answer key when you look those up on their website, but it doesn't really give you a specific answer, if that makes sense. So it kind of tells you like what to look for, but it doesn't give you an example answer that you could model and really show your students. And so what I did is I went ahead and created answers for those 3 SCRs. And I use the language of what TEA has released so far. And I tried to make that specific for 8th grade and specific for fiction. So those, I'll show you those SCRs are pretty good. And then for the sample answers, I went ahead and color coded those so you could see that red is answering the question, blue is the evidence. Now, these can be completely mixed together. They don't have to be separate, but this is just an example to kind of make it easier for you to grade those if you are taking a grade or conferencing, giving feedback to your students. I thought that would be helpful to have that. Okay, and then it has blank ECR planners, and those are differentiated. So there's different ones from advanced to basic. The more basic one is really good for your SPED students or lower level students. I also included a link to the digital planners, which are great for if you have any students with dysgraphia or any specific disabilities where it makes writing really hard for them. That's something you can try. And then I also included 3 ECR questions, and those are pretty high level, and then 1 ECR sample answer that is color coded. And the ECR that I decided to go with after asking for feedback from 8th grade teachers, it is pretty much the same question that's on the practice test, just for you to know. And also, when you look at the answer key for that, it gives you like a 1-sentence answer, and then it says, and then they have to back it up with evidence. So it doesn't really give you an answer. It doesn't give you a sample essay. So what this gives you is it actually gives you a proper sample essay that you could use to model. Like, let's say you gave them the practice test. You could show this to model what a great answer would be, or you could even show it to them first and then give them the practice test and see what they come up with. Okay, so this is all the teacher directions, the link to the passage, which is a PDF. These are the ECRs, and those are Google Doc links, so you can link those directly to Google Classroom, and they are editable. So you are welcome to change the questions and tweak them if you would like. And then I also included a digital version of the SCRs that you could post to your Google Classroom. And when you click on these links, it'll just make a forced copy. Digital planners, and then the Google Slide version of this, which is what we're looking at right now. So when you go on Teacher Pay Teachers, it'll download it as a PDF, and then all you have to do is click that link where it says Google Slides, and it will turn it all into a slideshow that you can use. It'll make a copy onto your drive. And then this takes you through step by step how to teach ECRs, and it gives you a plan of what you could do over a period of 3 weeks. You could do this in 1 week as well, but this is just a suggestion. This is all about the Foursquare. And then just a little anchor chart. What is fiction? Just the basics of what is fiction. This is the Foursquare. And one thing I did change on this Foursquare, I teach fourth grade, so on the Foursquare that I use, we use problem and solution. So I did change those words to conflict and resolution. And in the story, you're going to see that I have, these are the things that you kind of preview in the top left corner. It's realistic fiction. What's the author's purpose? Bold words. And then I have the characters and different things that you learn throughout the story about their personality, the setting, the conflict. The conflict in the story, I kind of felt like there were two main conflicts. The traditional conflict is the one that's introduced at the beginning of the story, which is that the mom is worried about the grandpa living alone and sends Anthony there to report back. And that's kind of what you learn towards the beginning, which should be typical of the rising action. But then when I was looking at the practice test, they also, I guess, consider the conflict to be um, when he eats the pesto, when Anthony eats the pesto, and it does not, he says it tasted awful. So I kind of broke it up into two, the main conflict being number one, but then the conflict at the end of the story is also, they did reference that on the practice test as being the resolution that he basically pretended that it tasted good. And then that made his grandpa happy. So I kind of went into both of those. And this is not necessarily an answer key. And this is editable. So if you want to change it before you show it to the students, if you want to do your own thing, that is totally fine. This is more for newer teachers to kind of help them to have a discussion about the passage. And then over here, I put the main events. So if you were making like a summary, these would be the main things that happen throughout the story. I also wrote the lesson. One of these I got from the original 2018 multiple choice answer, which is interesting that then it was different when they wrote the ECR. So I put both of them because I think that both of them could be a lesson. One says the process of creating may be more meaningful than the result. I think that one was from the original. You'll see that it's kind of in a multiple choice question on the original one. And then sharing experiences may lead to greater understanding between people. That's more something that they put in the answer key for the ECR. So you're going to see that as well. So both of those could be the lesson. And then the point of view. So these are the SCRs. What characteristics of the story help the reader identify it as realistic fiction? I did notice that there was another previously released SCR that had a question like that. So I thought that was a good one to ask. Explain why paragraphs 1 through 3 are important to the story. And all of these have answer keys. Explain how Anthony's behavior in paragraph 12 through 14 affects the resolution of the plot. And this is a planner. This would be the more advanced one. That would be great for 8th grade. A little simpler. And then this is the one I would use just if you're just starting ECRs, or you just want to get them to just basically put their controlling idea and then some evidence, and then they explain it, and then they sum it up. And then there's the checklist. This is based on the rubric, just using kid-friendly language. So feel free to use that if it helps. And then this is the ECR that you're going to see the sample answer for. Explain how Anthony's interactions with Grandpa helped to develop a theme about how sharing experiences may lead to greater understanding between people. Here's another one about point of view, okay, and how that helps the reader to understand why Anthony enjoys Grandpa's cooking despite the taste. And the last ECR, how the setting contributes to the plot. Think about, what if it was set in a different place? How would the story be different? So the setting in this case really does contribute to the plot. Between the garden, the grocery store, most of the time they were in his kitchen. So all of that definitely contributes to the plot. And they would just have to give evidence and explain how the setting contributes to the plot. And then I added something on this slide. I added in, so red is restate and answer. C is their evidence from the passage. E is explain. S is where they sum it up or the conclusion. Orange is any transition words to show how it flows or sentence starters. And then I added something else because what I've learned from scoring and going to scoring trainings is that the whole essay really needs to be connected. It really needs to always go back to that controlling idea. So as a model for the answer for the ECR, what I did is I color coded it and I added in the words that went back to that controlling idea. I made those red so you could really show the students, look how these words keep going back to that controlling idea and connect it all together. So I'm going to show you that. So you'll see how there are these red words throughout the paragraph. That's just going back to the controlling idea, which is basically that he had, the theme is that it led to greater understanding between people. And then the answer to that, how did Anthony's interactions with Grandpa develop that theme, is because Anthony learns new things about his grandpa as he spends the day with him. So that was all that was in the answer key, was that one sentence. But what I did is I went ahead and found the evidence. I really gave examples of what Anthony learned by spending time with his grandpa. And then in my green, which is the explain, I explained how he starts to realize that his grandpa enjoys gardening. He starts to learn that his grandpa is happy and seems to be enjoying retired life and the hobbies that he did not have time for when he was working. And then you get into paragraphs 5 through 11, where he learns all of this. And then he realizes that this is the part of the story where his grandpa enjoys the process of creating and cooking traditional meals from scratch. Now he has the free time to do it. He comes to understand that his grandpa is content and satisfied. So these red words kind of will hopefully show the students that connects it all back to the theme. So it either has to connect back to how the experiences of sharing leads to greater understanding between people, or it's connecting back to the why and the how, which is Anthony learning more and more as he spends time with his grandpa. So you're going to see that that's going to be part of the green, and then that's also going to be these red words throughout. And then the conclusion is at the end. I underlined the theme and the answer so you could clearly show that to students. And then if you don't like the color coding, I also made just a regular black and white version that you can show your students. Or you could use this kind of as an answer key of possible answers that different students could come up with. It's not a be all end all, it's just a model to show them. And even though 8th grade doesn't necessarily have to write this much, I think by showing this to your students, it's going to level up and uh, give them that high expectation that they can work towards. And if they don't see that, then it's going to be hard for them to do. And then these are the sample answers for the SCRs. And that is it. So I hope that this video helped you, and I hope that you love this resource. Please let me know how your 8th graders do with this and if it helps them to write ECRs. Have a great day. Bye.